We had a client that we worked with, and she was really struggling with profitability. She kept raising tuition. She actually did 3 tuition increases within a 15-month cycle, and she still could not catch up. So I helped her work with our 6 money leaks in schools, and she only used 3 of the 6 money leaks and cut her expenses by 50%. 50. She did not fire anyone. She did not slash any of her programs, and she did not work more hours. Again, the 6 money leaks are not hacks or spreadsheets. These are patterns. They are small decisions that feel so normal that your school does, but they quietly drain your school's profit. So if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard, but still not seeing the return, this is your first step to clarity. Click the link in the show notes and find out what it's actually costing you. Welcome to the Schools of Excellence podcast, a place for insightful conversations about building sustainable schools of excellence. Join me each week as we explore the importance of leading with your values, creating impact, and leaving a lasting legacy. My goal on the show is to provide you with clarity, elevate your mindset, and equip you with practical strategies and inspiration. I'm Chanie, a proud mother of 4, a former New Yorker, now savoring sunny Florida vibes. With a professional journey spanning 18 years across all levels of school leadership, I bring nuanced insight that delve into the intricate details of running a center, as well as the broader visionary aspects of leadership. Thank you for joining me for this conversation. Let's build a legacy of excellence together. Hey there. Today's conversation is with my business mentor, Todd Herman. Todd has been working with the highest achievers in sports and business for over 2 decades. He's the creator of the multi-award-winning leadership and skill development program, The 90-Day Year, and he's the author of the Wall Street Journal best-selling book, The Alter Ego Effect, which is the power of secret identities to transform your life. He's also written a children's book to help young kids navigate tough stuff, which is called My Super Me. Todd's professional programs are delivered annually to over 200,000 professionals in 73 countries. Named by the Boston Herald as a training superstar, Todd has been featured on the Today Show, Wall Street Journal, PBS, CBS, New York Times, Fox Sports, Inc. Magazine, Business Insider, among many others. Originally from Alberta, Canada, Todd now lives in New York City with his wife and 3 children. Now, if you've been part of the Schools of Excellence world for a little bit, in 2019, I invited Todd to deliver the keynote at the Summit of Excellence in New York City on his book, The Alter Ego Effect. And so today's conversation, we actually dive into a whole different realm on deep into mentorship, his personal experiences with mentors, and how he became a mentor and a coach to so many, as well as his practices for being the best in his field. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Todd Herman. I met you back in 2016, obviously, through your 90-Day Year program. And then I joined Basecamp in New York City a little bit after. So going on 9 years now. And over the course of just being in your world and, just having the opportunity to be mentored by you, there's so many moments and highlights of your own mentorship journey, starting from all the way back home for you, that I'd actually love to start this conversation with: how have the first mentors in your life, your parents, really impacted so much of your own mentorship and coaching journey that you've been on, for almost 3 decades at this point?
Sure. So I'm one of those people who I won the lottery ticket on parents. They're just good humans. And I grew up on a big farm and ranch in Alberta, Canada. And, as I think the baseline of the best mentors to start with, they helped me with character, integrity, the way that you go about things, like doing it the right way. And they weren't necessarily, because a lot of times when people think about mentoring, they think about someone who's mentoring you in your career path, like kind of explicitly with the plays to run, the skills to build, and things like that. Well, right before I was going away for university and college, my parents had said to me, whatever you're going to go, because they knew that I wasn't going to be the kid who comes back home and takes over the farm. I had older brothers who were going to do that kind of work. They were better at it than me, had more of an interest in it as well. But they they said, like, you're going to go and do things that we're going to have no experience in whatsoever. But we hope that we've given you the right foundation to kind of build whatever it is your life is going to be off of. And they were 100% right. Now, the one thing that my dad did say to me, because we were personality wise, not quite different. We shared the same values, but he was a quiet guy. I'm gregarious, extroverted.
You're not quiet?
No, I'm not. And he said, you know, we were standing in the corrals on the ranch, and he said, we stopped and excuse the language to the listener, but this is the way that my dad spoke. He said, Todd, you see that piece of cow shit over there? And I said, yeah. You can take a piece of cow shit and wrap it in a red ribbon, but it's still a piece of cow shit. And it's to this day one of my favorite lines. I've said it on stages for the last 28 years, and I've had people come to me a decade later who were a college kid graduating, and they said that made such an impact, because sometimes I was going into interviews and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I like the idea of working for this company, but that manager is a red ribbon wrapped around insert name. And the reason he said it to me is because I'm such a people person, and I always indexed very highly towards people liking me when I was younger. Like, I just did, and I worked my way through it. But it was, warning me that you're going to meet a lot of people who might be in fancy suits, fancy dresses, whatever, but just make sure that it's not a red ribbon. And that's one of my favorite hard takeaways from my parents, was that.
Yeah. We talk a lot about values in schools of excellence, and really building a business, building a school around values. And I think that there's a lot of people that say that they value family, or maybe have ambitions to want to value family, really living family values. Obviously, it's very personal, because each person in each season, how they practice family values are different. But when I was looking for a business mentor, when I first started the company back in 2015, I knew that I needed someone who really valued family, because family is one of my top 2 values. And when I think of mentorship and someone really walking along the journey, whatever mentorship was, their business or personal life, I knew that I needed that person to honor at least one of my top 2 values, or it would just be completely out of integrity.
For sure.
And watching you, just having your parents at the live event retreats, and the respect that you gave them, how much you talked about your kids. You didn't just preach and play platitudes to family, you really, really live it. And I think it's very, very different to see someone in the industry, and especially a man who really practices family. So I'd love, again, if you could just take us a step further. When you look at mentorship, that's just my personal lens when I'm looking for a mentor. When you coach people on if they're a good fit to work with you, or if you're looking for your own mentors, what are some of the filters that you use when you're like, is this going to be a good person for me? Is this person going to really shepherd me on my next journey?
Yeah, sure. So number one value is, if someone talks about money too much, the making of money, getting money, and not even in a negative connotation, but all their goals are just wrapped around scaling business or something like that, that's not going to be a great fit for me whatsoever. There's 2 of the worst partnerships I've ever been involved in were people who I learned after the fact cared. Their number one value, it seemed, was money, and then they did things that were just outside of what I would do from my own character standpoint. So that's the biggest red flag as a miss for me. Now, it doesn't mean that they can't be right for someone else, but that's just not something that I overly care about. I just got off of a call with a private client of mine. It was like a quarterly strategy call with him, and one of the top wealth managers in North America owns private woodlands in Pennsylvania and has private jets and all that. And we are extremely similar people. And he has just one ethos for his success, and that is the only thing that matters is client success. And now on the back end of that, because his focus has been on that, he's built up this amazing business. So he just happens to have made a lot of money, but it's because of these other values that he cares about. So that's one, is that. And then the other thing that's a red flag for me is time. That people equate, whether it's impact or quality or value on time. Because what happens then is if they think that they're buying my time, and that, let's say you and I have a 60-minute call ahead of us.
Yeah.
That just happens to be the container of space that we have to do the things that we need to do. But if we're done our conversation in 8 minutes, we've solved things, issues have been taken care of, and you're left in a great place, then great. I just bought you 52 minutes because of my expertise and skill set.
Yeah. So,
when someone starts asking me questions on, if they ever get to the point of talking to me because they've, jumped over hoops, because I only privately mentor 5 people every single year. And then we have other group programming. And I always say that there is no client in the history of my life that has extracted more value from me than you for the least amount of time or money even spent. So kudos to you. And it's because of just your approach. But when someone asks me like, how much time do I get? And that's a red flag for me, because their indexing value is an equation towards time spent with me. And that's not it, because I work at speed. And I can do that because I have such a wealth of experience and skill set. And I've honed that over a long period of time.
Yeah. So again, like speaking to the wealth of experience and wisdom that you've really accumulated, I love your origin story of how you became a coach and how just your whole story is fascinating. Can you take us to how you really started what it is that you're doing right now?
Completely accidental. One of the thorns in my side is when people tell the origin story of their entrepreneurial self. And it's like, it sounds like everyone had a vision from the start of something that they wanted to go and do or build. And mine wasn't like that. I played college football. I was a good athlete, and I started volunteering coaching at a high school and would spend more time with these kids kind of navigating their mental game, because that was my strength and I was fascinated with it and was diving down the rabbit hole of it at a young age, and had just built up a good tool set for myself and was just passing it along. These kids started getting really great results, specifically actually in the classroom is where they were getting the results. One kid in particular went from a 29% average, which was his average from junior high school. And this is now a high school kid. He was 29% average, and he went to the honor roll in 6 months. And that's because I was kind of teaching him with frameworks. And this is now like such a specialty of yours. Yeah. I drew out a picture of kind of how how the mind works. And it just sunk in with him. It was the first time someone communicated to him in a way that he got it. And now after, the long career that I've had, I realized that he was ADHD. So he just needed a picture, and I just did. And I spent the time with him. So this mom came up to me and said, hey, would you mind, I'd like you to do some one-on-one with Kirby. Could you do that? He was the first client. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And it was just this awkward pause, and we're facing each other. And then she's like, okay, Todd. And because I was 21 at the time, how much do you want to charge? she's like coaching me through the process of being.
Now this is when you take money from me.
Exactly. And so I said, how about $75 for a package of 3 sessions? And that was my rate for the first almost 3 years. So $25 a session. They were in-home visits with kids after school and maybe even before school. And that's what I built my little mental game coaching business off of, was the hustle of pre-morning and late afternoon, evening with people. And yeah, so that's kind of where it kicked off. Yeah. But I didn't know that this was actually a business though either. Right. I just thought that because there was no coaching, coaching wasn't an industry back then. This is 1997. And then also there was no mental game coaching really. There was some at the very top level of sport, but not at the amateur level or team level necessarily. Yeah. So I was like, is this even a thing, or are people just giving me money because they kind of like me and they know is that, you can't build a business off of that, I don't think. And so I was like, well, the only thing I know how to do is speak, because I grew up in 4-H. So if you're not familiar to the listener, 4-H is like agricultural Boy Scouts. And in that club, you had to do a speech every single year as a competition. So I got very comfortable with speaking. So I resolved to do as many speeches as I could in the province of Alberta, where I was at the time, in the next 90 days. And I'd do them for free. So, I had my little pitch. I'd call around people, and I booked 2 in the first week. And by the end of that 90 days, I did 68 speeches, and I did so much focused activity that I never had to market that business really again, because it was all word of mouth after that.
When I first started hearing some of the stories, because you're a phenomenal speaker and a brilliant storyteller, and one of the stories that you said was, you were talking, well, before you said the story, you were talking about apprenticeship and and I think it was the first time I heard that word in like 2017, like someone was actually talking about apprenticeship, as opposed to like, what we know apprenticeship was in, in American civilization, really just in general. And you spoke a lot about one of your first mentors, Jim Rohn, and then Harvey Dorfman. And I would love if you can share just how you were able to connect with such incredible mentors and be under their wing for so many years, and how that really impacted you. So lots of questions here, but start wherever you want.
Yeah. So the first one was accidental, and the second one was intentional.
Okay.
So the first one, Jim, was accidental in that my uncle was winning an award in Canada for Construction Person of the Year, and I'm really close with this uncle, and he invited me to come with him. And so looking back, it's say yes to opportunities when you get to go around, when you get to get around, people that are either way outside of your world or way above. And I'm a young guy. So I said yes with my uncle, and here I am sitting at the head table because I'm a guest, sitting next to my uncle, and I'm talking to this gentleman, and he's asking me all these questions. I had just won this little award, and he was, asking me things that people had never asked me before, like what's your vision and what's your goal, and very basic, almost personal development or goal type question, or self-help type questions maybe. But no one had really asked that. No one had those conversations with me. Then all of a sudden dinner ends, and they said, this person comes up to the mic and says, we'd like to now welcome Jim Rohn to the podium. And so the guy sitting next to me is Jim Rohn. And for someone who doesn't know, he's one of the best business philosophers of the 20th century. Forbes named him number 3. And one of the greatest speakers, such a unique speaker as well. So he goes up and delivers 56 minutes of the best thing I'd ever heard. He had such a unique way that he spoke, sits back down afterwards, and I'm like effusively apologetic. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, because, here he is. He's a celebrity to everyone else that's in the room. I didn't know it. Just this idiot kid. And he's like, no, it's okay. And of course, why would you know? And so I said, well, that's what I want to do someday. I want to be able to do what you just did. And so he gave me some things to go and start this little fledgling business. And I happened to go and do them right away. Actually, this was a Saturday. I went and did them all on Monday. He gave me 3 tasks. I called him back at about 1:30 in the afternoon that Monday and said, hey, this is Todd. I just met you, blah, 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 2 days ago. I did those 3 things. And he called me back the next day and was basically like, you're the first person who's ever gone and done it, because I've offered this to other people. Yeah, call me back after you do this, because people receive him as a mentor. Yeah. But a lot of people don't go and do anything with the advice. And so he called me back, and then he kind of gave me a few more things. And that's how that relationship started. It wasn't really starting as a mentorship. It was just, hey, do these things. I'll help you out. And then it turned into this relationship in that first few years.
Yeah.
So great takeaway is be someone who takes action immediately when someone that's of a, whether it's higher standard or higher value or advanced in your career, just follow up and do it. And, but then as I was growing my business, I was trying to develop myself as a mental game person. That wasn't Jim's world. And I was reading all these different books, and a lot of the psychology books just didn't make sense. It was theoretical. I'm like, this stuff doesn't make any sense on the field to talk to someone about this. So I kind of had this, I think it's the farm kid in me, this a little bit of a, bullshit detector for stuff. Just wasn't pragmatic.
Yeah.
But one book did, and it was The ABCs of Pitching, which was written by Harvey Dorfman. And he was a mental game coach to professional Major League Baseball players. or Major League Baseball players. So this was now December of 1999. I reached out to him, just cold called him to his home in North Carolina, left him a long message saying, hey, you don't know me, but I have this fledgling little thing. I know enough to know that I don't know everything. Your book is the only one that makes sense, your stuff. So can I come down and, be an assistant? Can I clean up your office? I'm sure you have another book that you'd like to write. It was a very long voicemail. I probably used up his entire recorder back then. And he called me back a couple of days later, and his kind of first words were, you don't want to come live with me, kid, do you? And I was like, no. I have an aunt and uncle who live in the area. This was in North Carolina. I was in Alberta at the time. And I talked my way into coming down to North Carolina. Originally, it was going to be like for a week. I ended up being there for 33 days. And I lied. I did not have an aunt and uncle in North Carolina. I found a Motel 6 for $28.50 a night. And I maxed out my Scotiabank credit card because I wasn't making a lot of money at the time. But, I had a lot of energy, I guess. And I got to witness the best mental game guy in the world work with the best athletes, because at that time it was the baseball off season and they would make this pilgrimage in to see him. You know what it's like, come and do private days with you.
Yeah.
And that's what they were doing. Yeah. And he invited me to come and sit on these sessions. So all of these ideas of what I thought you would work with a pro at, and I had one pro client. He was a rookie in the National Hockey League at the time, but it was not my stable of clients. I was still working with a lot of amateurs and doing like workshops and stuff. But, I went from, that would have taken me 13 years to figure out what Harvey showed me in 33 days. And then just the side conversations. And then he started funneling me clients because he was just too busy. He was a massively in-demand person. And that's the second order consequences of a great mentor is how many other doors that they open for you. That's not the primary promise. And anyone who goes into a primary promise of a mentor is they're going to open doors for me. It will never work for you. Never work. You've got to go in to serve. I went in to serve. I wasn't necessarily going in. My pitch was through osmosis. I'm going to learn something from you, Harvey. Like, let me just clean. I'll be an assistant for you. And so that's a mistake that people make, even when they reach out to me. It's a very selfish approach that they take, because I get pinged a lot.
I'm sure.
Right, especially with social media, it's so much easier to reach, and that's okay. It's just that they don't make it easy for me or even the team to say yes.
Yeah. I have so many questions around this, but I think the part I want to dive into is like, you took such a bet on yourself. You really took this bet where I was like, I'm going to go and get mentored, but like, I don't know what's really going to happen. There was like, he didn't lay out this like perfect 30-day plan for you, but you believed enough in yourself to take this risk and go and do this thing. I don't even know what the question is. Like, what did you believe about yourself? Why did you believe it was worth it? I think so many people want mentorship, but get stuck on like, but what's the ROI? But what's the plan? But what am I going to get? But they're so calculated in advance, and you didn't do that here. And look at the ripple effect that happened for you.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. One, it was born out of the other thing I didn't share at the beginning with regards to my mom and dad is when they were talking to me about going away and having this career, whatever it was going to be, they just said, whatever you go and do, just tuck yourself under the wing of people who are the best. Don't settle for anything less than the best. And, I still get chills from.
Yeah, I just got the chills. That's so beautiful.
And I didn't know all the layers of amazing philosophy that's below that at the time. Now I can look back and I can see it. But that was, I don't know that I would have chosen it if they didn't tell me it. Because I don't know that I had you're giving me credit for having a lot of self-belief, but I didn't really have it. What I had was, I had a real desire to do right by my clients. I saw a lot of young kids come to me after they had worked with some, quote, like sports psychologist or something, and they steered them very, very wrong. And it really bothered me because at their age, and to the people that are listening, like these are people running schools and teachers, like you're such in a massively impactful, period of time in their lives, and anything less than giving kids a foundation of opportunity to help them realize whatever their aspirations are I just took that stuff very seriously. And I saw how much destroyed the confidence of some young athletes. And so it was kind of a little bit less about me. I wanted to be great at what I was doing. That was behind it. I wasn't probably conscious of it. I think I was more not insecure, but I just did not want to fail people. So I was driven a little bit by pain in some way. And because I don't want to gloss it over. That was what I was driven by, was I don't want to screw up. And the one way of ensuring that doesn't happen is just getting around people that are way better than me. And that was one of the things, tucking myself under the wing of the best. Thankfully I didn't reach out to other people who I had resonated with their book maybe a little bit earlier, because in the end I kind of discovered that they were, their house was built on sand kind of thing. So I picked the right person.
Yeah.
So those were the motivations. I don't know that it was really me betting on myself as much. It would be nice to be able to say that, but I don't think it really was.
No, I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's something that's been a through line in my career, in my life, which is I really love doing right by the client. Yeah. And this just from our relationship is being very patient with that prescription for people. And I've said this to many people at the time, I've said this to many people, that just because someone asks you for something in the moment, you do not need to give a response to that answer. You don't have to give the solution to it right now. In fact, one of the best scripts you can learn, and this is pause this, write this down, rewind this, hit the 30-second rewind on Apple, podcasts to really let this sink in, is to say, you know what, let me get back to you on that. Because when you do get back to them on that, the message that it sends to the client is, wait a second, I wasn't in the moment on the call with Chanie. And she just responded to me 8 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, 36 hours later, which means, because this is how people interpret it, she was thinking about me when I wasn't in her presence. And she actually did follow up.
Yeah.
The anchoring effect that has on another human being is profound, because most people are walking around the world feeling like they can be insignificant or not seen. And I mean, this goes deep with people. And I know this because I've done this for a very long time, and people have followed up with me afterwards saying, I just want to let you know, no one's ever done that for me. Or, I just want to let you know how much I appreciate you taking the time to get me the right response or the right action or the right advice. So yeah, just that reflex has been a big part of, I think, my approach to what I do.
Yeah. When I think of one of the factors that I believe that make you so unique as a mentor is the custom tailoring to each client. And I think a lot of people can say, I custom tailor to each client. And I know that I have a diverse clientele, but they're all in the same industry. They're all school leaders. So while it's a diverse group of people, they're still all into the same industry.
Yeah.
When your clientele is so diverse, from men to women to Olympians to athletes to business owners to billionaires it's the whole run of the gamut. And yet every single one of your clients feels like, I'm seen, I'm heard, you know exactly what's going on over here. And to mentor a roster of clients that has such different pursuits and ambitions in life it's tremendous. And I would love for you to speak to what are your practices, or how you've really been able to show up and serve and care so deeply about clients, even when they're coming from such different backgrounds, and so many that are just different from yours. Like sometimes I'm like, how do you relate to this person? Like, it's not your world at all.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's go to the qualities that are shared among kind of most people that makes it work. One, I'm very curious. I really do love finding out how different things work. So that means I expose myself to so many other sources of content or reading material. Like I love learning about different industries and the nuances of how they work, because what happens is when you learn about a whole bunch, you see that there are like 90% of the puppet strings are the exact same. The things that make them successful. So that's one thing. You see just the commonality of things. So then that then leads you to like, okay, well, what are the first principles thinking that we need to kind of think through, or that are there and that are present? So that comes down to like something like root cause analysis. Root cause analysis, let's make sure that we're not solving for the surface problem. We're solving for the one that's, actually creating this. Yep. Sometimes in the moment, we need to triage. No, let's put the Band-Aid. Let's actually stop the bleeding here. And then we can go to root cause. So now that's a timing thing. Like, okay, someone doesn't want to have a philosophical conversation with me when they're, getting fed with a fire hose of whatever the problem is.
Yeah.
So that's it as well. And then I stay to my lane as well, honey. Like you and I have had conversations about this. I think one of the challenges that's come up in the coaching industry in general is that people think that some people think that they're qualified to be a therapist, and you're not. I'm not. I don't do therapy. I do performance coaching, which means I'm moving you in a direction towards a goal. Now, in that process, are there things that come up that are, emotionally challenged for people? Yeah. That doesn't mean that they need therapy necessarily. That just means that they need to develop their emotional management skill set. So I stay in my lane as well. And then learning and developing a lot of understanding around the human condition, human performance, how humans operate, how humans work inside of social systems. I can apply that to an athlete. I can apply that to a financial person who's running a big company. I can apply that to a woman who's growing the largest training and coaching company in the education sector, right? Like there's so many commonalities that are there.
Yeah.
I don't need to get overly caught up into the weeds of, oh, this person is so different necessarily.
Yeah.
But then also, honey, there is because we do so much profiling with clients, different types of assessments. So where that comes into the uniqueness factor that you're talking about is being able to be a shapeshifter in your language, articulating it in a certain way for you that's meaningful to you. Like I know what your values are and things, and I can make sure that we try to recenter you back on, hey, this is most likely why you're doing this.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
But then someone else being hyper aware of what makes them tick. It's that subtle little combination of their uniqueness factor, their individuality that then makes it feel like it's very customized.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So one of the things that were such a huge draw when I first heard you speak and coach on a 90-day year call, and why I ultimately ended up signing up for Basecamp, was the quality of questions that you're able to bring to a coaching call, to a conversation, are so different from really anything that I see anywhere, on any podcast that I'll listen to, books, like the quality. And for me, that was such a draw, because I'm like, I want to be able to ask questions like that. And over the course of just years and years, I've honed that craft, and I'm grateful that I'm able to just ask clients questions in that kind of way. The question that I get so often, and I want to ask you this, is people are always asking me, how do you become a better question asker? Like, how do you learn how to ask better questions? They're always asking me, like, give me the cheat sheets of your questions, or, how do you do that? I'm curious how you've developed this skill and this craft.
I think a great place for people to start is there are category types of questions. So before we go to like, hey, here's a question that you can ask, that's a very specific thing. There's categories of questions. A good example of a first place to start as a category of questions is clarifying questions. Like, tell me more about that. How do you mean, honey, you don't have a process for articulating back to people like how to get better at their questions, right? So that's me using your language back to you. So, and all I'm doing is and what that forces you to do, and there's a bunch of layers underneath that as to how that makes you just better at communication. When someone hears you reflect back the words that they just said, you're the first person in their day that they felt was listening to them. And that is a gift. However good the quality of the question is, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's that the person's experience of this moment is that they feel seen or they feel heard, right? And then what that does is it prevents you from also jumping into prescription or jumping into solution finding, which, as a group, guys will do more, right? Because we want to fix this.
But school leaders as well, like there is this fixer mindset of just wanting to solve the problem, wanting to get it out of the way so I could go solve other problems. And it's such a practice to learn how to not fix it. And again, like you're saying, the types of questions so that you're not entering the fixer mode.
Yeah. So to that, great point. The other mindset that comes along with this that makes question asking so much easier is the realization that the hardest part of communication is coming up with the language to say what it is that you're actually experiencing on the inside. Most people have a hard time articulating and forming the statement or forming the opinion or forming the, whatever it might be, the issue, the challenge. And so when you understand that, even if someone is attacking you, sometimes they're attacking because they're so frustrated on the inside because they don't know how to say it. And so that's coming through in the way that they're now conversing with you.
Yeah.
And so that's why clarifying, like, honey, you just said that you're really frustrated with the teaching staff here at the school. How do you mean frustrated? So again, how do you mean? Tell me more about that.
Yeah.
You just said this, like it's all clarifying. So you're taking this one statement and I'm drilling in deeper on it so that I can get down to like really a root cause of like, or I'm getting down to what they actually mean. So going back to your original question of like, how do you get so good at asking questions? So there's mindsets around it, curiosity.
Yep.
There's a mindset of clarifying. There's a mindset of understanding that human beings, we are clumsy with our communication. We sometimes don't know exactly what to articulate.
Yeah.
Right? There's studies that show that if you have a limited vocabulary, it affects your ability to earn in your lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting to me. So then that's because we don't have the ability to say what we actually mean. Mm-hmm. So anyways, just going back to and giving people like tactical things. So there's clarifying questions. There's also evaluating type questions. And evaluating type questions is when someone has already come to a preconceived idea or notion of a way forward. Let's evaluate that. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you took that action, is that going to get you to where you actually want to go? Because sometimes people are very good at problem solving, but they're not actually very good at going to where they want to go. Because you've been great at solving problems. That just doesn't mean that you're actually getting to where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then there's options type questions. So people typically will anchor on an idea of what they should do right now. And they haven't thought through all the other available options using all the resources that they have. So in a school, it could be teaching staff coming to the director or the owner saying, we need to hire some more, or we need to buy some blah. So they're solving it with a money resource, as opposed to an innovation or a creativity resource. Like there's other ways that we can solve this thing that has nothing to do with spending money.
Yeah.
Anyways, just coming up with different types of categories of types of questions.
I love that. And so it's a very simple step to get started and just reframing some of the questions or reframing some of your initial default responses. Even if they shift a little bit, you're already starting to change the language which is changing the culture of the company.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something you said previously on, really how you stayed in your lane and how you don't do therapy. One of the things that has happened, since 2020 with just so much more emotional angst, volatility in the world, economic contraction, staff are coming into school with just a lot of weight, a lot of their own just personal stuff. And a lot of leaders are finding themselves almost holding the role of the listener, of the therapist, holding that container for them to like work through their stuff. And a question I get a lot is, how do I make sure I don't enter this role and I really stay as the mentor and the coach and, and the advisor? And the thing I often go back to is like, I don't think you have a real definition of what it means to be a mentor in this school. I think everything is very blurred for you. So so you become this and then tomorrow you become this. I'd love to hear, how have you been able to be so disciplined about staying in your lane as a mentor, even though people come to you with a lot of stuff? It's not unique to schools.
Yeah. One is helping people organize in their brain where I sit on the shelf.
Huh.
So I'm okay with someone writing a label on me in their world. Because it's their world. I mean, because then I become highly useful to them when they know that I'm not doing, you can come with me for, like, I love to give guidance and direction when it comes to, hey, you know what? Like, I actually do know the right person that could be a therapist for you. But when they know that they're not going to be able to come to me with therapeutic type issues, it's actually so useful for them. Even though they might be left with the same problem or issue, they can go and find someone else to help solve that. And like I always tell people, make sure that you're not getting, say, massage advice from your, real estate agent, right? Like, or you're not getting real estate advice from your, massage therapist or whatever. Like, just organize people in your mind a little bit better. So that's one thing. And really, mentoring is about really two main things. Mentoring is about showing and experiencing. That's one category. And then the other category is offering guidance. Coaching is another thing. Mm-hmm. But mentoring is about showing and experiencing. So you're showing people through your experience. That's what that's mentors are unique, because they are people who have done it.
Yeah.
And then offering guidance. But it's that right from the start, creating an anchor point for someone where they understand what role you play in their career success. And you can say, hey, if you ever come and you've got, and this is completely preferential to the person, if you have, challenges at home or whatever, feel free to bring them in. And I can offer some guidance. But I'm not going to be, I can't do 2 hours on the couch. I don't know. I mean, even saying that, I don't think you need to be so explicit with it.
Yeah. When I think of how a lot of young...
By the way, not pay.
Go ahead.
But does that actually answer your question? Does that help?
Well,
because going back to your question, you were saying that, during, especially since COVID, people have been really challenged by maybe the emotional needs of teachers.
I think the context of what I was bringing the question from was, I think the leader wants to help, especially driven just by a caretaking, nurturing part of themselves. And when they see a teacher in pain or someone that's struggling, they really want to support them. The challenge is, and I love what you said, of just like, what role do I play in this person's life? I think it goes a little further, because so many people are really lonely and they don't have other people in their life. And, the school really is like a sanctuary for them. It's like a haven. Like the leader is almost everything for them. And it takes a lot of unshackling of the leader to understand you can't be everything for your staff. You have to decide how you're going to show up as a mentor to your team, because yes, you're the leader, but you're also a mentor because you're showing and role modeling, and your leadership team is looking at you. So I don't know if you answered the question specifically, because I think anyone that's listening to this has their own lens of how they're thinking about the question from like their own world. But
Yeah.
I think maybe if I had a follow-up question, it would be in the moment when someone's coming with their package, how can the leader recognize that and stay in their lane in that moment so that they're not getting dragged into a conversation that they really shouldn't be invited to?
It is such a cheat code when you tell other people, you know what, I'm wholly unqualified to be able to handle that for you.
Mm.
I say that at least 3 times a week to clientele. Because again, it goes back to this idea of staying in my lane.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of things that I am wholly unqualified to give you very targeted advice on. And so that sounds like it would be dismissive to some people. No, there are many people who'd be like, oh, thank you. Like you could, because giving people the energetic space of just listening in that moment and then saying, hey, I'm wholly unqualified to help you with that. I would actually suggest that you talk to, it could be a counselor at the school, or it could be someone else. When you also understand human dynamics, the one thing that I could give someone is if they are going through a really rough patch, as a mentor, I could say, you know what, just to help you through this process, why don't you come in and check in every single day? Because I know that when you're going through this, it's like there's a brain fog that's there. There's like, so just check in with me and I can help you set the plan for the day.
Yeah. Okay. So this is great, because that brings me kind of into the other thought I wanted to unpack here is mentorship. You were talking about space, right? And kind of helping the mentee or the client kind of figure out, okay, is this really the problem? Is this the problem? Where do I need to go from here? Mentorship is a lot more, it's a longer term relationship. It's a greater investment versus, being the trainer in the school, or like everyone comes to you for problems, you shoot off your answers and then you move on. And as I'm working with leaders and school leaders who come to work in our membership, when I start to talk about mentorship, there's so much resistance that comes in, because it's like, but that's going to take so much longer. But I don't know if I have the bandwidth to have that conversation, but that's exhausting or whatever it is. So I'm curious to hear, because again, I know you've been a mentor for so long and you've had the privilege to be mentored by so many people, by some amazing individuals. I'm curious the lens that you look through mentorship when you hear other people that are struggling with resistance, or like, this is a long game. This is not, a quick fix.
Well, I mean, I look at it as, the reason I don't have resistance around it is because it's just a way of being. Like I'm always going to be mentoring. I'll always be coaching. Yeah. Because I don't even know what the alternative would be. Like how would you not be, because even if you're a massively narcissistic human being, you would still have the perception that you're always going to be mentoring or helping, or like whatever the word is that someone would be using to, whether it's serving other people or even if you were selfishly trying to get your own way.
Yeah.
So my frame on mentoring is it's a lifetime thing. Now, the good thing about that is then, because it's a lifetime pursuit, there is no massive rush for me to know everything that there is to know about, because you can't. It's like leadership skills. It's like communication skills. Yeah. It's not a goal. It's a way, it's a process. Mm-hmm. It's just a way that you're going to always get better. Now, I will say though, that mentoring doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a really long-term thing though. Okay. Because there are some people who've come into my world who mentored me, and it was a short term. Yeah. That they came in, and it was really about goal. I had this one goal, and I only needed that mentoring for that short period of time. But if someone, in your case, if they've chosen the career or they've chosen the business of this, then yeah, the nature of your world is mentoring as well. Yeah. So why not embrace it? the resistance, the lack of resistance will only help you to build the skills that much faster.
So the thing that I also talk about is like why we want the long-term relationship with mentoring is that that's a huge factor in retention. You want your staff to stay for a while. You want them to be there. I think just a little tentacle question here is, because I've also had mentors that I've had in my life for like a short period of time. Like they've walked me through a particular season, and then it was like, okay, now, I have a different season. I've had different business mentors walk through different seasons. I think one of the things that's unique about our relationship is that I have been through so many different seasons since 2016, and the fact that you're still relevant in my world means that you're constantly evolving and growing, because again, you can only take a person as far as you've gone yourself. But I think I'm curious about some other of your practices of how, because I'm not the only long-term client, you have a lot of long-term clients. How do you stay relevant in someone's world when they're just going through seasons of life?
Well, be interested. Right? Like, I mean, I'm very interested in your success, and that's not, and just, I'm also very interested in your world. Like, I didn't know as much as I know now about the world of private schools and the culture that happens inside of schools as I am through you.
Yeah.
And also encouragement is the other thing. Like I love the encouragement part of this dynamic that we have, because like you said, the seasons of life that you're going through, which also means there's friction points in the transitions between seasons. Yeah. Right? I talk about this a lot, that if you're doing, I think you've got some teaching around this in your classroom content around transitions. Yeah. Right? Like where's the breakage point in class? It's the start of class and it's the end of class. So if you're going to develop a system or an SOP or whatever, let's start there. Yeah. Well, the same thing holds true in sports. A large percentage of goals that are scored in the National Hockey League are scored at the beginning of the 3 minutes of a period and the last 3 minutes of a period. It's a 20-minute period. And why is that? Because they don't start well and they don't end well. Teams don't practice that way. But the point about that, coming back to encouragement, is because I know that you're going to be always growing and advancing, that means that ergo, you're going to have a lot of transitions and a lot of friction. And so I love building the skill set of getting even better and better and better at helping people navigate those transitions. Yeah. Whether it's mentally, emotionally, biologically, physically, whatever. So that's one of the things that helps, I think, to stay relevant with a long-term client as well. Being interested, and then, those are very basic things. Yeah. Being interested, but genuinely being interested. Yeah. One of the things you had shared earlier, we were talking about just the reps and the amount of hours that you've coached and you've worked with people and mentored people. One of the practices that I learned from you that I still do to this day is so it's funny because I didn't grow up in a sports world. Actually, no one in my son, yes, he's the first person to play any sport. He plays hockey. Yeah. I just didn't grow up in that. So it was funny to me how like all of a sudden I knew all of this languaging around sports when I entered your world. But one of the things you had spoken about was watching the game film, and how one of your practices is you go back and you watch coaching calls that you have led. And I do this to this day. I watch hours of my coaching calls, and so much of my content comes from that, podcasting, everything. Why is that such an important habit as an advisor, as a mentor of leaders? Why is that something that from all the practices that is, I see it as a non-negotiable for you. And for me also, it's a non-negotiable on my calendar. Well, it's your life. So if you want to be really good at your life, it's very useful to watch you doing your life. So the best athletes don't just get off the field and then immediately go and prepare for their next game. Yeah. They just saw themselves execute what they've been preparing themselves to be good at, or preparing themselves against a team. And now there's so much value in going back and being an observer, not the doer, because it puts you into another role in your life where you get to be an observer of yourself. And you go, so now you've got some objectivity, especially if you do it with the right state of mind, which is,
Sure.
I'm not going in there to judge myself harshly. I'm going in there to have a critical thinking factor and observe myself and like, oh, so bringing this back to my coaching is, oh, you know what, in that conversation with Chanie, I didn't notice that she had that little physical change. Like there was something that was there that I didn't pick up on because, body language stuff, it's not great at lying. And I didn't pick up. I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm going to follow up with her. So it's follow up. So like, hey, Chanie, I was just thinking about the conversation that we had about navigating those difficult conversations with someone who just comes in and tries to dump on you. I wanted to ask, did you get the answer that you needed or really wanted? Like, is there anything else that's there? Again, going back to following up with people afterwards.
Yeah.
People just don't have that experience. So that's one thing, is there is an opportunity for follow-up to reinforce the relationship with the person to make sure that they extract the value from me that they could. The second thing is recognition of the fact that, oh, I am really good. That was a really great moment there. And that was because I asked this question. So it's recognition of skill.
Yeah.
Third, it's to see yourself practicing something that's new as well. So I read a book, I found a question that's really good. I'm going to use it in today's or this week. And I just happened to do it on the call with Chanie. And I get to see myself deliver it. And then I also get to see its results. You're like, oh, it didn't really actually bear fruit like I thought it would. So there's lots of things that's there. My point is where you get better at your life is to also observe the content of your life.
I've never heard it framed that way. I think that's really
why journaling can be so valuable
Yeah.
over a long period of time, because you get to go back and, in photos, you get to see your kids grow.
Yeah. I love
We
it.
get to see ourselves shift and change as well.
Yeah.
But how do we log the internal changes if we don't write things down? We don't, because our memory is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why the journaling is so important. And, like what happened to me was, because I've journaled since I was 12, and really it was more like logging. I was kind of logging parts of my day. Then I noticed that the only time I would long form journal is when life was in the gutter. So what was happening was I was looking back, and if someone else picked up those journals, they'd be like, this sounds like a horror story. Like, is there anything good that happens in this person's world, kind of thing? And so I was like, oh, that's interesting that I'm doing that. And I don't want that. I don't want my kids to pick up my journals, because I want to pass them down to them and only read a horror story. Wow. So even in my journal, there's an entry from 2002 that says, if you've gotten to this point of my journals, you'll have noticed that it sounds like a bit of a horror story. And that's because I only came in here to dump when things were really bad. But from now forward, I'm making a conscious effort to log the kind of more holistic of like, so I'm going to put in here the good things and capture those moments, as well as the things that I'm kind of wrestling with and challenged by. No, there's the journal sits right over there.
I mean, it's also just such a big part of your legacy, if you think of that, and which is like a whole separate thing, which is like, it's beautiful. So I have two final questions here. You work with people, obviously, depending on the clientele, people bring really hard questions to you, really tough stuff that they're working with, whether it's a particular mindset or a roadblock that they're working through, or skill that they're trying to break through from. Like they're not bringing easy things to you. And one of the things that are, again, just an incredible skill of yours is that even when someone's bringing something so tough and you have to push the person, push their limits, push their capacity, you're doing it with kindness, with empathy, with a lot of care. And I think sometimes that can come off paradoxical, where a lot of school leaders feel like if I push my staff, or if I push their limits, or I push their capacity, then I'm mean, or I'm a jerk, or I'm unkind, or whatever it is. So can you speak to how you've really been able to create such a beautiful harmony of because I know you've pushed me. I mean, just where I was in 2016, where I am today, just you've pushed so much of my own limitations, my own beliefs, my own capacity to do things, but never in a way where I'm like, oh my God, go away from me. Like you're pushing me way too hard.
Yeah, sure.
Walk us through that.
Well, because the first thing is I want to make sure that I'm aligning to your goals, not mine.
Yeah.
Right? Mentorship isn't about me trying to create the perfect model of me.
Yeah.
Mentorship is making sure that I'm giving you the opportunity to create yourself. So me understanding your values, me understanding your goals, that's place, not number one, but that's
Sure.
a building block on the foundation of you getting to where you want to go. I also know that especially there's useful stereotypes that are out there. We need to investigate them to make sure that someone isn't outside the stereotype, because if they are, then we treat them. But women will under-index on their capability.
Mm-hmm.
They're just more modest about their capabilities.
Yeah.
So me knowing that, I want to make sure that I'm modeling back to Chanie that no, you're way better at what you do, or you're way better at this.
Yeah.
And when I can get you to recognize that increases your perceived capability. So when you increase your perceived capability, the next part, think of it like an XY graph.
Mm-hmm.
There's capability on the Y axis, and then there's challenge on the X axis. So if I can increase someone's belief in their capability, and they actually are capable, well, that means I can also increase the challenge for them. So I can push you, say like, I don't think that that's a big enough goal for you.
Yeah.
You're going to get bored.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to care as much about it. We can shoot higher.
Yeah.
And so there's also language there. We can. I'm not saying you can shoot higher. We can. I always want to align myself beside someone. And the other more powerful word in leadership, I think it's one of the most powerful words in leadership, is let's.
Yeah.
It's not you go do it. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So to your point, I want to help people see their capacity, see their capability as being more than what it is, so that I can create the container to add challenge to it. What that models back to people is the great book Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And that what I just gave you is his model. I'm not going to take credit for it, because his model is about capability across the bottom and challenge across the x-axis. And when you get into the upper right-hand quadrant, that's where the flow area sits. What you're talking about is when people overly challenge themselves, but they actually don't have the capability. Well, that's where a lot of entrepreneurs or leaders will go, is more. I'm going to do more. I'm going to add more to my plate. And then you get into the anxiety zone, the stress zone, the burnout zone.
Yeah. If
you continuously operate there. So I'm mindful of that. I have a framework in my head and a model in my head of, hey, where is Chanie at specifically, or where's this person? And they're getting way too much. They're trying to do too much stuff.
Yeah.
Let's dial things back. Look what happened to you 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. We just come out of, a year and a half, 2 years of COVID,
mm-hmm.
and you and your team were working on so many projects. And so we said 2022 was the year of no projects.
Yeah.
Nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Great year of growth.
Yeah.
Why? Because there's a season for that.
Yeah.
Optimizing and systemizing things. So it's an optimization season. Right there. So
my last question for you is around not so much really any person listening to this. A lot of people feel.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yeah.
The other thing too, and this isn't necessarily coming across in the podcast, but you know this about me, is I am a massive jokester.
Yes.
If people here are familiar with archetypes, the jester archetype is my number 2 archetype.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that and why it's important is the ability, and this doesn't have to be for everybody. I've had great mentors that aren't like jokesters, but the ability to bring levity to things is one of mine. So like humor, and because sometimes people are coming in tight gripped on an issue and I need to relax them a little bit. And so for me, the ability to use like nicknames with people and joke around is a big thing, because we take our lives very seriously. We take ourselves really seriously. And so I want to make sure I play a role too of having some like levity and fun as well. That goes a long way. Yes, I do agree with that. And that's true. That didn't really that side of your persona didn't come across in the conversation. No. As much. So my last question is around just a lot of leaders feel like they're not
they feel like they can't be mentors. Like, I don't have enough to mentor. I don't, I just want to sit in this lane. I just want to tell people what to do or show them the training and I find that whether you want to be the mentor or not, when you're in a position of leadership, you are mentoring these people. These people are looking up to you. You are this role model. And I think a lot of the resistance, again, to be that mentor is like, well, everyone's looking at me now. I'm like, well, everyone's looking at you anyways. Like, it's just, you're in that position of leadership. So I'm curious how you would speak to the mindset of the leader who feels like, I don't want everyone to be looking up to me. I'm not, perfect yet. I still struggle with all of these things. This is also still too hard for me. How can I mentor this person on this? All of that chatter.
Yeah. So I'll tell us a quick story.
Yeah.
When I was 19, 20, I managed to get into like managing a restaurant. I was a waiter while I was in college, university, and just love the hospitality space. Being an outgoing person, you could put me in a better element. Yeah. And I was promoted into this one management role, and I took over a part of the business that was struggling, like profitability wise. I think in the entire like network of companies, we were one of the least profitable. And within 6 months, we turned it into the most profitable in the entire company. And I won this. That's the award that I actually won that Jim Rohn had recognized, because I won this Restaurant Manager of the Year award inside this big company. Yeah. And there was no magic secret what it was. So I identified just a couple of things. One was the schedule. I'm not going to get into that. A lot of waitresses and bartenders were getting scheduled on days that they couldn't because of university and college. But the one thing that I noticed was when they were going through their sections, like the tables that were being served, they were like using just their hands, and they were just piling up glasses, and they had to make multiple trips back and forth. So right before every single lunch rush or dinner rush, I would say, I need all of you carrying a tray. You just carry a tray. That's the only thing. Just carry a tray. And, when they would, and I would say, see this tray? This tray is like Superman's cape. Put it down. You got no cape. Pick it up. All of a sudden, you're a superhero. Again, joking, levity, but they got the point. And when they would walk by, if they didn't have the tray, I'm like, where's your cape? Come on, put your cape on. And they were like, oh, Todd. So joking around. But all of that to say, what a lot of managers would do, and I saw this, is they would be standing around watching people do their work. It's the lunch rush. My whole idea was I'm there to help and serve these waiters and waitresses so they can get the most amount of tips possible, and the customers, get in and out in their lunch. And that was the magic secret. I just wasn't the manager who stood around. I was there to help serve and make my waiters, waitresses, bartenders more successful. That's what a good mentor is going to do as well. It's not about me. I don't care about the label, honey.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everyone, when you're saying you need to be a good mentor to other people, or people are resisting against mentoring, screw the label. Who cares? It's an act of service for other people, because you're serving them in their career. That's what you're doing. Who cares about the label that you're going to give yourself? But you're offering guidance to them. You're showing them how to do something. You're modeling. You're giving them, you're leveraging your experience with people. That's what you're doing. I mean, whether someone calls themselves a mentor or not, but that's just good leadership. That's servant-based leadership. Yeah. And I don't care about someone perceiving me as a mentor. If that's the word that they use, that's great. Yeah. But I'm here to serve. Yeah. That's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. Todd, you've been just an incredible mentor to me over the last, 9 years. And I'm grateful for our relationship.
Easy, honey. Come on. Don't give me too much credit here. So
I know, but it's been a joy working alongside you and just being able to get coached by someone who's just works with so many different people. So really grateful for that. And thanks for coming on the show. This has been a long time coming, and I'm grateful we got to have this conversation.
Always, anytime. Thanks, honey.
There were so many highlights from this conversation personally, and I want to take a moment here just to kind of loop back on a couple of things that really stood out to me that I want to bring to your attention. So one of the things that Todd had shared in our conversation was be the person who takes action right away. In his story on how he had ended up being mentored by Jim Rohn, was that simple step that he took right away when Jim had, given him those action steps. And that led to this incredible experience of him being mentored by Jim Rohn over the course of several years. Another highlight for me was when Todd had shared the story before he had left home. And his parents had told him, whatever you do and wherever you go, tuck yourself under the wings of good people, of the best. And I really just love this as a guiding principle in leading and building a beautiful life that is led by values and legacy. Like, this is just such a beautiful mindset and belief to have as you go through life. Tuck yourself under the wings of good people. Another really powerful highlight that I loved was the coaching practice of when someone brings you a question and you don't necessarily know the answer right away, you want to think on it. Todd had shared, let me get back to you on that. And that is really sending a powerful message to your staff, to your leadership team, that you are thinking about them even when they're not in your presence. We talk so much in schools of excellence about really creating cultures where teachers feel seen and heard and valued and appreciated, and adopting this practice of, let me get back to you on that, and then loop back with them later the next day in a voice message, in a text message. There's like a million different ways of communicating. It really, really sends that message. I feel seen. I feel heard. I'm valued and appreciated in this company. Another thing that was really powerful of our conversation was we spoke about helping leaders understand how to not cross the line and start, becoming the therapist and the mom and the this and the that. And Todd had really shared being super specific right from the start, what role you play in the career success of this person that you're mentoring. And that specificity is so helpful. And so if you're doing interviews now, or you're hiring, or you're onboarding, really give that clarity from the get-go. This is the role that I will be playing in your career success in this center, during this season. And lastly, we ended off with really mentoring is this lifelong pursuit. And Todd had shared, because it's this lifelong pursuit, it means there's no rush for me to know everything or do everything right now. Much like leadership and communication, it's not a goal, right? It's something that you're always getting better at. And as you understand the personal values and goals of the people that you're mentoring, the leadership team, you're really able to embrace this lifelong pursuit of what it means to be a phenomenal mentor. So if you enjoy this conversation and you're looking for more of this content, you want to, dig into what Todd has to say about mentorship and a lot of his other work on the alter ego effect and other things, definitely go check out Todd's website. It's in the link is in the show notes, along with some of his incredible books. So like I said in the beginning, if you do not have a copy of his book, The Alter Ego Effect, the link is in the show notes. Go get yourself a copy of that book. And his children's book, My Super Me, my family has a copy. I've purchased that as gifts for some of our clients to put in their school library. So if you have young kids, this is a great book to bring into your home. And if you don't and you want to add it to your school library, definitely check the link in the show notes. You can check out that book as well. And of course, you can follow Todd on social media. All of his link is in the show notes on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and thanks so much for joining us today. If you are loving the Schools of Excellence podcast and have gotten any value out of it for your school, I would love if you can do two things for me. One, subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. And two, can you please leave us a review? Reviews help other school leaders know that this is the place to learn how to build a school of excellence. And I would be so grateful if you can do that for us. Your help and support makes this show to be able to be listened by the thousands of other school leaders all around the world. Thanks so much for listening, for giving us your time and attention each and every week, and I appreciate that you have joined us. If your accountant has ever told you to cut back on professional development or slash your teacher appreciation budget or your staff development budget just so you could stay afloat, or has told you, hey, you probably can't go invest in that program, please listen. The problem is not that you're spending too much money on your people or yourself or your investment or your support system. It's that your school has invisible money leaks that are draining your profit, leaks that no spreadsheet will ever catch or accountant. So I created the 6 money leaks of schools that show you the 6 core areas that schools lose money every single month without realizing it.
If you close even one of them, your profits will start to soar without sacrificing your team. Go get it now and stop blaming the things that are actually building your school.